Okay, today's lecture is about the last topic of cognitive psychology. Okay, the language. Okay, so before we go for this language perspective, we have to summarize some of the issues handled in last week, the decision making and judgment. Right? So what we have learned is two major points: subject probability and Bayesian theorem, and all the fallacy when we decide our decision. Okay, decision making. So what kinds of fallacy we have? So how we can avoid these kinds of fallacy? Right? That is what we handled last week. So that is summarizing 3 questions. I'm trying to summarize that topic in 3 questions. The first question is about this one: the decision-making strategy in which only instance consistent with the hypothesis are chosen in referred to as the what, which means you keep it your decision. You're not discarded. You want to stand still. Okay, what is called that? So when you decide something, okay, you want to stay there. Just remind some kind of sunk cost. Okay, the movie ticket example yesterday and last week. So why people want to stay in a movie theater? Why not? So what is called this one? So, yep, answer is D. Okay, so status quo. The effect is, bias means when you decide some decision, you're trying to justify your decision with the supporting evidence, right? So that's why people stick to the decision when you have made. Okay, so that is second. So very good, quite good number. Right. Go to the second question. Okay, so the major researcher in decision theory is Kahneman and Tversky, right? They found that their research on decision making, that people will make different choices for 2 different versions of the same question if the versions are worded in a slightly different manners. The word changes, such as, okay, so when I give you some, what is the ratio of the heart attack? Well, many of say, okay, around 50%. But when I say over 55 years old, probably your subjective probability will be increased. Remember that? Okay, no word about ages means like 50% of a heart attack. But when I say, okay, the people who older than 55, you can rate these kinds of probabilities much higher than the previous answer. So, what is called this phenomena? Framing effect? Subjective evaluation. This one is a tricky question. You have to choose very good answer, the best answer. Okay, the C is a gambler's fallacy, and these, I can't speak out clearly, attitudinal preconceptions, which means this is not the option. Okay, fine. Maybe battery. Oh, quite good. So how do you know it? The answer is really tricky because the framing effect. Okay, hi. You can pick up yours. The framing effect is, I haven't mentioned the framing effect in clear ways, but this framing effect mentioned in chapter 2. Chapter 2, when I explain the car bumped or car hit or car smashed, right, depending on the word you're using it, your decision will be different. Okay, that is called the framing effect. Oh, very good. My good students. Okay, last one is important thing is when I show the sum of the graph, negatively accelerated one, the utility function stuff, right? On that. So question is, in decision-making situation that involve financial reward, researchers have found that value people put on money is not linear with the face value of the money. This is called what? Biased estimation or subjective utility or incongruous valuation or erroneous calibration. So what you have to remember for answering this question was 2 things, okay? The gain value loss. Okay? Likewise. Okay, it's not a linear form. This one is an objective linear relationship between gain and value, but people have some kind of overvaluation here. Or sometimes when you see the subjective probability, that is objective probability. Subjective probability looks like that. That's why the $1 million and $2 million have different values. It's not the same value. It's not 2 times. Okay. Get it? Understand the questions? Okay. Oh! It was an easy question, but quite good. So that is called subjective utility. So one more thing I can explain it. When you have a decision theory, you know the decision graph or decision tree? Operation research. You haven't learned decision tree yet? Such as when you draw something like this one, decision tree. You have to decide in here with the probability likewise. It's not DP, it's decision tree. Thank you. So when I do this one, so you can have an expected value, right? You can calculate it. So for example, 0.7 probability, you can expect $200 million minus $100 million. To calculate this one, simply this way, right? Right? That is simple expected valuation calculation, right? But when we apply subjective utility, you have this one. If I believe subjective utility is 2 times the loss, so this kind of company is decide we don't want to lose money, so that's why they put the high weight on the loss. Okay, so the utility is 2L means I do not want to lose any money. The gain is not much important to me. Loss is much more important. In that case, you can double time 2L. So in this case, you can times 2. So that is new expected value using subjective utility. It's not a linear, but if your company or your boss doesn't want to lose any money, you can make this way to avoid this decision. Okay, that is how to link between decision tree and subjective utility function. Right. Now, back to our last topic in cognitive psychology. Yes, last topic. Right. Language structure. As I said, okay, all the cognitive psychology textbook include the language in the last section. The reason why is language is really hard to understand, and there are many variations depending on which country or which language you are using it. So that's why that is so much difficult. But as you can remember, in chapter 1, one of the greatest researcher in cognitive psychology, which is called Noam Chomsky, heard that? Chomsky. He's a social activist now. Again, but Chomsky made a very, very strong, prominent theory in language. From that time on, linguistics, okay, study about language, is joined into the cognitive psychology. So, which means latest history. It's not long history we don't have in language. So from Chomsky start about his studies on language, and from that time on, cognitive psychology start to handle language from the perspective of psychology. So that's why 2 things. Okay, why Chomsky's idea is really prominent, and why now Chomsky's idea might be wrong. Okay, so there are 2 approaches. Chomsky made something great, advanced, but now many of us believe that Chomsky's idea might be not right. Might not be right. So that's what we have studied in here. As you know, language, only human species have, right? Is it? Only human has a language? Any other? Oh, dolphin. Oh, yeah, dolphin can communicate. Even dogs can communicate. What is the strange thing about Korean, the human language?
Human can represent the language using their sound.
A vocal mechanism. Dogs can bark. They can bark. They have to use it. What about the vocabulary? Oh, yeah, that's fine, you're good. Vocabulary, number of vocabulary. So we have hips, we make it, right? We can make new vocabulary. The dog cannot do that. The dolphins cannot do that, right? So that's the probably strange things of the human language. And second thing is we have grammar, right? We have grammar, of course. Grammar, 문법, grammar. Sorry. Yeah, we have grammar. And we can make every sentence, you can make heaps of millions different types of sentences. Okay? Right. These kinds of things is, we believe, the unique human characteristic of our language. But when you see this video clip, you might be wonder whether human has such ability in unique ways. Bonobo. Bonono?
Use the lighter to start the fire.
That is not a movie. It's not a special effect. That is a real thing. Only couple of bonobo? Bonobo? It's not chimpanzee. Bonobo. Bonono? Bonobo? He can communicate language with human being. He understands a new word. He understands a new sentence. Even he can make a new idea.
In the mid-70s, a 3.5 million-year-old human skeleton was discovered in a Rift Valley. She was named Lucy for the Beatles song, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, which happened to be on the radio at the time. The hominid Lucy and bonobos like Kanzi share a remarkable number of features. Their limb proportions and the way in which they walk are similar. Which returns us to Kanzi, the bonobo who shares features with our own human ancestors. Working with Kanzi sheds light on our evolutionary path, out of ancient East Africa to the full global sweep of the whole modern world. Georgia State University's Language Research Center, Kanzi's home, is set among 50 wooded acres just 20 minutes from downtown Atlanta. Researchers here study language development in human children by comparing it with language development in our close relatives, apes. Kanzi, working on word tests with Dr. Rose Sergin.
So that is a special equipment to communicate with the human and his Kanzi. There is some computer screen, there is a heaps of word, and he can make a sentence. Because he can't make a vocal sound, but he can use his finger to communicate.
Which triggers an electronic voice. These 256 symbols bear no visual resemblance to test words, which include adjectives, verbs, even wishes and emotions.
Potato.
The board includes abstracts like good and bad. Some human adults working with Kanzi have taken a year to memorize these symbols and master the board.
House. Good. Family. Chicken. Chicken. That's right.
So that's why cognitive psychologists are wondering about how we can understand the language. Okay, so if that is not unique human characteristic, what is that? So that's why I made a couple of slides to test with you guys about that. So how we process language. So before we talking about the language, there are written forms of language like this one, okay, text one, and the other one is speech, right? The older research doesn't classify, doesn't separate these two in a different ways because speech and written form is all of them is useful for understanding human language structure. So many of study is simply using the verbal, or sometimes they're using a written form. So I'm using a written form. So I will show the sentence and see what is it. Okay? So I love Ariana more than Jenny, who is not an apple. Oh, it makes sense? Does it make sense? Okay, step by step. Okay, first one. The speech or written form signal, when you want to process the language, so what you have to do, you have to read or you have to hear it, right? So the first thing you have to process the language, you have to filter out some of the noise factors. So you can read it and you can see it, right? That is first process, visual perception in this case, otherwise audio perception, right? Second thing is, critical component of the speech, in this case a sentence, signal must be perceived. How? You have to recognize love, okay, more, Jenny, apple. Such a critical component you have to perceive, visual perception, right? And then third step is, this component must relate to the dictionary of your mind. In your mind, you have to have some dictionary. Some people cannot read the English, they can't understand this sentence. Likewise, we have to have that word in our memory. Dictionary, right? Like Jenny, apple. But from that 3 point, so you have the lexicon, you call the lexicon. From that point, this one is perfect language, isn't it? Perfect. There's no other problems. Love, Jenny, apple, Ariana, everything you can understand it. But there is not particular sentence we are expecting it because of the fourth one. And then you're trying to look at whether this sentence is grammatically correct or not. So that grammatic structure must be extracted to understand the relationship between the words. This one is something unusual, isn't it? So up to that point is fine. But when you see this close, who is not an apple. So this one doesn't make any sentence, the proper sentence, right? Because grammatically it is wrong. Say like, it cannot be compared to Jenny and apple. It's different things. But some of the novel or creative writing, they can use this one. I can show you some of the examples. So many of the poem, okay, novel, they're using very special creative sentence, right? Like colorfulness, what is it? Colorfulness is something bring the dawn or something like that. So you can make every sentence you want to do it. So that is kind of poem. So when you look at this sentence, okay, from here to here is fine, but when you see this one, something not right, so that you have to have backward processing with the grammar. So whether this one has meaning or not. So at that time, you can include the context. Some of the context you can include. So that when you read a poem or novel, this sentence can be acceptable because of the context. Right? But otherwise, without any context, this doesn't make any sense. Likewise, so determination of a meaning must happen, often requiring reevaluation of grammatical and semantic relationship of the word in a sentence. At that time, you can include some of the affective content, so with the context. So there are two approaches in here, right, about the language. So serial processing versus interactive processing. The serial processing means we read or hear all the information from the start to the end. Okay? Serial ways. But another approach is interactive processing is we are not simply read from left to the right. In the middle of it, we have other information like context, grammar, semantics, or syntax, syntactic knowledge. All of them is interactive while we are reading it. Of course, we're starting from the first sentence, first line to the last line, but while we're doing this one, all other information are interacting with our language processing. So that is two different approach in many of language. So yeah, in Korean, English, American, any language, I have a similar process. So now we have to know how the semantics are working with the example. Okay, you know the Gestalt tendency, Gestalt law of Gestalt. So the unfinished circle, if you see the unfinished circle, you want to see that that is a whole circle, right? That kinds of thing. We can see the same thing, same Gestalt tendency in our language processing. Example? I made it. Yes. Right, start with it. So I can read a couple of sentences. Okay. Read very carefully. Hear very carefully.
It was found that Eel was on the bike.
Omo? Okay.
It was found that Eel was on the bike.
So this one, okay. It was found something on the bike. Okay.
It was found that Eel was on the bike.
What is it? Oh. Okay, next one. Okay, do not rush.
It was found that Eel was on the orange.
We found what on the orange? Orange. Homo?
It was found that Eel was on the orange.
Last one.
It was found that Eel was on the shoe.
On the shoe. So there are beeping sound in here. Beep sound. Something like that. Which you like most in every movie. Like a beep sound. Right? So the first one is what? What is your best guess? Wheel. Second. Peel. Third. Heel. Right? So that is wheel. Heel. So point is this one. Why? How we recognize these kinds of auditory information is from the Warren's experiment in 1970s is they are phonemes. Phonemes is changed with coughing sound. Coughing. That sound, right? When they experiment, they read this sentence, but at that time they add up coughing sound. Okay. Most of us recognize this sentence. Of course, we are not the English native people, right? So that's why it's a little bit much harder for the English natives. But when they do the experiment, they found that people simply not read this or hear or read this word, they are using some of context or semantics. So that can help you to recognize the word you hear. So that means semantics and top-down influencing. So this one is the previous example. I love example. Okay, I love that sentence. First sentence is starting from phoneme perception and morpheme word, morpheme perception and parsing the word, and semantic, text, and understanding. But semantics one is starting from in here, top-down processing. So we are doing both of them at the same time. Okay. So two different approach. Okay. Get it? So now I'm going to do another interesting example about how the language is structuring is this way. Do you like Star Wars? Star Wars? Yeah. Okay. Right, so the favorite character in Star Wars is Yoda, isn't it? Yoda. It looks like me, right? So I love Yoda. Oh, Jang-sun. He's my son. Not biological son, but I mean, so, right, he's very similar. Right, Yoda. So when you hear when you see the movie, and then when you have enough English skills or comprehension skill, you probably recognize Yoda's language is quite different. Right? You never, right? Right? So the movie director, who is the director? No, Spielberg is. George Lucas. Yep, George Lucas invented very special language, right, for Yoda. Well, of course, you're reading a Korean text, right, subtitle. You didn't hear about that Yoda's language, so I prepared for you guys. Very kind lecturer. Right? Yoda's language. Very kind, isn't it?
Agree with you, the council does.
Huh? One more? That is one of the sentence Yoda speaking.
Agree with you, the council does.
Huh?
Agree with you, the council does. Agree with you, the council does.
He speaks like that.
Agree with you, the council does.
But of course, in Korean text is council does agree with you. Huh? But Yoda's language, George Lucas made very special Yoda language. So they start from verb. Verb phrase and noun phrase. The English is the other way around, right? The council does agree with you. But Yoda's language in the other way. So of course when you hear this one, I mean, the point is how this can happen. So even Yoda say like that, all of English natives understand that is the council does agree with you. Right? That's why we can see the movie. Otherwise, we have to have some translation, isn't it? But Yoda speaking never have any translation. Likewise, language can be analyzed by that phrase structure. Okay, Yoda's sentence is like that. So starting with verb and then noun. Luke Skywalker, the main character, that is human. So they are say the council does agree with you. So that is our English things like that. Very similar. Korean is starting with noun and then verb phrase. But our thing is verb is at the end. So middle of it we have object, another noun form. So that is slightly different between English and Korean. So many of the study in language, linguistic study, is based on comparing between Korean and English. So when you read many articles, there are many examples from Korea. So a couple of examples in our textbook is also Korean. So how the language can be acquired, so how people in Korea can improve their English. So that is included in the textbook. Okay, another interesting example, starting with it. So I'm just to remind you or provoke you to see how the language is working. So first sentence, my surgeon was butcher. Butcher? 정육점, 사람 죽이는 거. Butcher. My surgeon was a butcher. This one, it's not literal. We haven't seen this kind of sentence in many times in real life, but that gives us something unusual feeling, isn't it? My surgeon is butcher. You can feel it. Okay, my surgeon is butcher. Very aggressive. Okay. Because sermons are sleeping pills. Sermons, service, the church service, the sermon, the sleeping pill. Okay. My Jenny is a vegetable. Oh, that works. It's a strange sentence, but that works, which means she never play outside. Okay, she stands still. Always, stay at home, never go out. Okay, so Blake's last girlfriend chewed him up and spit him out. The last girlfriend is my wife. Okay, chewed him up and spit him out. Oh yeah, chew and spit, right? So likewise, this sentence is really not not literal, okay? But I mean, you understand it, right? So that is have a spatial context. So people can make this sentence, but animals cannot do that. Because they have another thing. So that's why we believe that, okay, now I'm going back to the history of linguistics, say, Chomsky. We can come back to this topic later, but Chomsky. Who is Skinner? You heard his name in chapter 1, behavioralism. So the father of behavioralism is Watson, and following on Watson's idea, Skinner is made of behaviorism. Okay? Okay? So at the same time, they wrote 2 different books. Same year. He made something like human language cannot be interpreted by cognition. So language is different. Language is not simple cognitive process. So which he says, language acquisition unit, chapter 1. Read the chapter 1, language acquisition unit. So what Chomsky proposed it, probably we have a language acquisition unit in our gene. Okay, already we have it. Okay, so we just simply use this language acquisition unit while we're growing up. So that's what he said. But these guys say, no. Oh, he doesn't agree with this idea. Okay, so all the linguistic study starting from 1957 because of him. So now, as of now, questions. Nobody knows yet. Many people are not believing the Chomsky's idea is right. But I mean, Chomsky made a really big progress in our understanding language, but he simply, I mean, it's very difficult to say, but he believed that cognitive psychology is really important, but language might be independent of cognition. That is what he claimed. Oh, okay. But Skinner's, of course, he doesn't believe the cognition. He put the language in underneath of behavior, much lower than Chomsky did. So that is different approach, but cognitive psychology helping around this time to improve this idea in a different ways. So that's why chapter 13 in our textbook is talking about language comprehension. Language comprehension is totally cognitive process. Okay, this chapter, chapter 12, is only about language structure, but next chapter is about how the cognitive process is helping what we have to understand the language. Okay, that is history. Okay, we can come back to this topic later. So this one, another example, how to read. Goti? Huh? Goti? G-O-T? G-O-D? Goti. Goti? Many of people will say this one is goti, isn't it? But it can be sounds like fish. I can interpret that. GH, rough. Huh? Oh, F, right? O is women. Women. Okay? You sound this one is, plural is women, right? It's the I sound, right? T is nation, sound, right? If you combine this thing with this word, it can be sound like fish. Is it? But we are not speaking this one is fish. Goti. More likely. So why? Why this happened? Okay? So GH in rough, O in women, T is nation. So when you combine these three, so that sounds like fish. Am I clever, isn't it? Incredible. That's I am. Right. So next one is we read these topics in chapter 1. Okay. So when you heard, smashed, car is smashed, collided, bumped, hit, and week later, okay, they will ask whether they have seen broken glass, and many of people who see this word say they saw broken glass, even though there is no broken glass on the picture, right? Because of the word framing effect, okay, framing effect or eyewitness fallacy or errors, we believe that this word is make some happening in here. So the idea about from implication from these things is this one. So there are two debating theory in language. Say two. Say language. Language determine thought, or thought determine language. Which one is right? Nobody knows. Another one. The number one is this one. Number two is this one. Number three is this one. This one is independent. Nothing to do with each other. Three approaches. All the linguistic study is one of them. Language influence thought. So nobody knows the clear answer yet. So if you want to be a linguistic psychologist, you have to study this one. Language determine thought, or thought determine the language. Or both of them are independent. Might do not have any answer. So one of the example. Okay? So one of the example is this one. In reality, okay, different language have many different colors. English one is red, yellow, that kind of thing. Korean is 빨강, 노랑, something, right? Every country or every language have a different name of colors. And researchers identified probably we can patternizing all the colors in 11, like black, white, red, yellow, green, blue, brown, purple, pink, orange, gray. This one is what we classified when you analyze most of the languages. But some language doesn't have any 11 classification of the colors, right? So this one, most of other languages, if they do not have any 11 colors, we have 11 colors, right? Oh, our language has 11 colors, but some language who doesn't have any 11 colors, or there are some language like Papua New Guinea or Indonesia in the Amazon, some of the native people, they don't have any enough color to code. So when analyzing is we have 5 labels. Black and white is one label, red is one label, yellow, green, and blue is another level, third level. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fourth level is brown, and fifth level is purple, pink, orange, and gray. So they analyzed it. So interesting finding is, if some of the language has only 2 colors, they have only this one, black and white. If the language has 3 colors, they combine these 2 plus red. If the one of the language has 4 colored names, they use black, white, red, and then one of them, yellow, green, and blue. One of them. If they have 5 colors, black and white, red, one of this one, and brown. So that is kind of, probably all the language has universal. Likewise, Babel, the Tower of Babel in the Bible. So we had one language and then something happened, so we split out in different ways, right? In the Bible. Shiwai, am I right? Okay. In that case, probably before that time, before the Babel Tower, we have the same language, but then split. So one of the evidence, it says, okay, we have 11 colors. But some of the languages have only 4 colors. They are combining this one. The idea is this one. Why we have different colors for the same object? So that is studied in linguistics. You don't need to too much, you know. And another difference is Korean has probably more verb oriented. So when we compare between English children and Korean students, strange thing is Korean students starting verb very quickly. They learn verb very quickly. English children learn nouns very quickly. Because we are familiar with the verb. That's why the Korean people is pali, right? Quick, okay? Because we have action word. Heaps of action word. They are familiar with this action word in a very early stage in knowledge or language development. But English people, English speaking, they know the many of the nouns. Right. Get it? Right. Simple. So that is background, only language background. We haven't deep into our language structure yet, so that's why I'm just remind you and provoke you to catch up with me. Right, so factors influencing the word meaning, determining word meaning. So, of course, the first thing is perceptual clarity. Likewise, this one. Distorted word is understood in the context only. Through what? Eel. Through ball. Okay, two missing letter. Through ball. And of course, our word perception is depending on the length and frequency. Likewise, longer word and less frequent word take longer to process. We are easily process bone, but this one, baleen or barnacles, you probably never seen this word. So that's why it takes a long time to process it. All right? Right. Third one is context, like this one. The priming effect, okay? The spy searched the room for a bug. What bug? Cockroach? Cricket? Because of the spy, they're looking for, what is it? Eavesdropping device, right? Eavesdropping, 도청장치. Okay, eavesdropping, right? In that case, bug means it's not simple bug, right? It's not computer bug, okay? Because of the spy, they say this one means some of the eavesdropping, right? Device. So depending on the context, you can understand the different word, same word in different ways. And then concrete word, imageability. So because you can draw some of the image in your memory or in your brain much easier than fairness. Fairness is abstract word, so that takes time to process it. And this one, neighborhood effect, when you see this word at the same time, this one is quickly processed. Because that is much easier, or much frequently seen rather than the three. Of course, in this case, chair, bear, there, fair, glare is much easier than lair. Because that is not frequently used word. Okay. So now I'm talking about the garden path effect. Garden path model is serial processing. So human language processing is serial processing. Okay, read this sentence. The small boy with a fishing pole walked toward the bank. Get it? Understand? The bank means? You don't know the bank? The bank, the river bank. River bank. Not the money bank. River bank. That in Korean. 둔덕? 뭐, 뚝, 강뚝 이렇게 있는 거 있지? 그걸 뱅크라고 불러. Okay? The bank. Right? Toward the bank. But when you see this sentence, the bank means money bank, isn't it? Okay, that is evidence about garden path model. Okay? Likewise, when you see this, okay, the small boy with the fishing pole walked to the bank, okay, that bank, river bank. And then, when you see, in order to get money, to buy worms, that bank is the bank, money bank. Right? That is, we are serially processing it. Right. This one is not, oh sorry, that is wrong. You have to correct it. This one is not a garden path model. Delete it. That is a structuring issue, okay? Okay, so read it. Since Blake always jogged a mile and a half, this seems like a short distance to him. That Blake is me, right? Okay. Get it? Understand? Easy, right? Easy question, right? Easy reading. But I put another thing. I delete this in this case. Since Blake always jogged a mile and a half, seems like a very short distance to him. I just get rid of this in a second sentence. So only this is omitted in the second sentence, but that makes it really hard to understand it. The first sentence is grammatically correct. Right? This seems like a short distance to him, but when I get rid of this, the second sentence, you don't understand where to put the commas, where you have to stop to read it. Yes. Okay, all right? Since Blake always joke, pause, a mile and a half seems like a short distance. Oh, that makes sense, isn't it? Since Blake always joke, a mile and a half means, okay, the subject seems like a very short distance to him. It works, but when you see this one, it takes longer than this one, isn't it? That's why this one is more correct than this one. This one is not the model. So we are classifying, we are parsing, structurally parsing this one with the graph later on. Right, so this one is kind of our back to our topic, back to our textbook. Okay, our textbook starting with the linguistic. The previous slides is all about my interpretation. From now on is go back to our coursework, the course textbook. So it starts with the linguistic, field of study of language. Psychology studies that the way the people process natural language is a major contribution. And two guys, Skinner and Chomsky. Skinner is empiricist, so they need heaps of experiment. And Chomsky is nativist, which means in here, LAC. I can explain what is LAC in here. So idea is this one. There are two books. The one is Skinner's written Verbal Behavior and Syntactic Structures in 1957. At the same time, the Chomsky reviewed the Skinner's book and Skinner reviewed the Chomsky's book. But they are debating. Heaps of debating, but who won? Chomsky's won. Okay? Because he didn't want the big debate with the cognitive something. So that's why just Chomsky's win in psychology. So he just override all the paradigm from the behaviorism and cognitivism anyway. So idea is this one. The Chomsky proposed human already have some language acquisition unit, the device, computer. Language computer is already in your mind. Only environment is provoking you to use it. Already in here, but while you're growing up, that language acquisition unit is activated. But empiricist Skinner say, and many cognitive psychologists say, language is learned behavior. Learned behavior. So we can learn. So environment, when you have environment, we are interacting with the environment to learn language, is the idea about Skinner's. But Chomsky's is dominant things. So our textbook is also say productivity and regularity. Productivity means we can have infinite number of questions, number of sentences we can make it. Okay, but regularity means but must be grammatically correct, systematically correct. Okay, so the goal of linguistics is to discover a set of rules that account for both productivity and regularity of natural language like English, Korean, Chinese, Japanese, which their main concern is grammar. Grammar. So linguistics is talking about the grammar, and linguistic psychologist is language comprehension. So slightly different jobs. So I will finish this one with a nice video clips. Why is interesting? The field of linguistics has three things. Grammar, okay? Each grammar is used syntax, semantics, and phonology. Syntax, okay, three of them. Syntax is of course the word order, subject, verb, or object. In Korean is subject, object, verb. And semantics is every sentence must have a meaning, right? And then that sentence, when you hear it, must be phonologically right sentence. Likewise, example, what's wrong in here? The girl hits the boy. Oh, we don't need to ask, right? Did he hit the girl, the boys? You can understand the meaning, right? But I mean, grammatically it's not right, right? Did hit the girl, the boys? Did the girl hit the boys, right? The girl hits a boy, boys, boy. Okay? The boys were hit by the girl, right? So likewise, syntax can help you to make a perfect sentence, and semantics. Likewise, this one. That is Chomsky's example. Color is green, ideas slip furiously. Oh? You understand what that means? I have no idea at all. Okay, when you read the sentence, it's grammatically perfect, but there is no semantics to deliver. It doesn't have any messages. Okay? But when you read this sentence in the context of the novel or poem, you might get some of the meaning, semantics. But otherwise, single sentence like this one, useless. Sincerity frightened the cat. No idea what it means, right? Likewise. Last one, to make a perfect meaning or perfect sentence, the sound you're speaking must be very clear. Phonologically, sound structure of sentence. So you have to make understandable utterances. My boy, my stupid boy, his name, I forgot his name. Oh, I forgot. Jeremy, yes, sorry. I forgot his name. I haven't seen him much, so that's why I forget it. But he found it for me. Very interesting one.
One day I'm going to Malta to big hotel. In the morning I go down to eat a breakfast. I tell the waitress I want 2 pieces of toast. She brings me only 1 piece. I tell her I want 2 pieces. She said go to the toilet. I say you don't understand, I want to piss out of my plate. She said you better not piss out of the plate, you son of a bitch.
You get it? Oh? I needed 2 pieces, but I mean he said in Italian guy say piece. Piece means the 오줌 싸는 거, piece. But he wanted to piss on the plate, so the lady say you better not piss on the plate.
I don't even know the lady, and she called me a son of a bitch. Later.
So he says son of a bitch, but I mean that is beach, so he see the different ways.
Go to eat at that bigger restaurant. The waitress brings me a spoon and a knife, but no fork. I tell her I want the fork. She tell me everyone want a fork. I tell her you don't understand, I want a fork on the table. She say you better not fork on the table, you son of a bitch. So I go back to my room in a hotel, and there is no sheets on the bed. Call the manager and tell him I want a sheet. He tell me to go to the toilet. I say you don't understand. understand. I want to shit on my bed. He said, you better not shit on my bed, you son of a bitch. I go to the checkout and the man at the desk said, peace on you. I said, peace on you too, you son of a bitch. I'm going back to Italy. Alibi.
That's it. That's it. That is about why phonology is important in language processing. Okay? That's it. So I can stop the lecture by now, and then from tomorrow I'm explaining some of the other aspects of language plus language comprehension. And from 2 weeks time, next week I can cover the language comprehension, and 2 weeks time, in 2 weeks later, I can start organizational psychology. You don't need to buy any books. I can just simply, the service for you guys, what is organizational psychology for industrial engineering student. Okay, no questions? Thank you. Have a good day then.